All right.
So what Cargill does is they take soybeans like that, and they turn them into products such as that oil right there, and then that meal. And so what they do is they take the raw soybeans and they remove the hulls, and they go through a lot of different processes. Like they flake the beans so that they're in smaller pieces, which increases the surface area. So it allows for more to be removed from the soybeans. And then the main part that I was in was extraction, which is where they get the oil. And what that is pretty much taking the soybean flakes, putting them into this solvent, and it helps to extract the oil from the soybeans. And the meal that is made, since Gainesville has a really big chicken industry, they sell a lot of the meals to those companies, and they can't sell the meal directly to the companies without treating it first, because it has a lot of things in it that would make the chicken sick, and that's liability for cargo, which isn't good. So they have to toast them, and they have to make sure that it can be sold. And then the oil that they sell, it goes to the local fast food industries. They sell it to them, and they get a good profit out of it. So pretty much what solvent extraction is it's how they extract vegetable oil from soybeans, and it uses a hydrocarbon to remove edible oil from seeds, which a hydrocarbon, as the name suggests, it's hydrogen and carbon. So pretty much that's what a soybean looks like. And the outside layer, that's the cell wall. And then the little line on the inside of the cell wall, what that is it's actually one of the oil bodies. And then the gray shaded area, those are carbohydrates. And the little circles, those are protein bodies surrounded by oil bodies. And so each soybean is 300 cells in diameter and 18 cells thick. So they're not huge. So pretty much what they do is they take the flakes and they put them in this solvent bath, and it goes into the cell wall, and it goes into solution with the oil bodies that are in there. And then whenever it comes back out, it's taking the oil out with it because it bonds with the oil within the cell. And so it goes through a lot of different cycles. There's like a rotocell, and it rotates, and there are different baskets with different concentrations of the solvent. And so with each one, it removes more and more. And that way they can ensure that by the time that they get to the last step, they're getting out all the oil, because they do sell it and they don't want to leave any in there. And also because they don't want to leave it in the flakes, because then that can make the chicken sick. And so the oil that's removed from the rotocell, it goes to distillation, which is where they remove the oil from the hexane. And they do that by differences in boiling point, because the hexane has a low boiling point, so it boils and then arises. So hexane is the solvent that they use, and it's petroleum based, and it bonds really readily to the oil, and then also it's a lot cheaper than a lot of the alternatives that they could use, and it has a low density and a low boiling point. So they also have to be really careful with the safety though, because it has a high flash point or a low flash point, which means that it could explode really easily, which would be bad. And so they have to be precautious of that. So I had to do a personal inquiry, which is kind of like an experiment. That's me in a hard hat for your personal entertainment. So my main thing that I did at Cargill was I took the white bean flakes that came down. What they would do is they would fall, like each basket that had already had the oil extracted, it fell down, and then I had to take this long metal tube and stick it in and like pull out the flakes. And actually it's kind of hard, and I wasn't really strong enough to do it, and usually somebody would help me. But I would take them out, and then I would leave them under this air vent, and it would dry them, and I collected samples every 15, 30, and 45 minutes. And then I would take them back to this room, and I would test them and look at what their fat levels and their moisture levels were. And pretty much optimally, they want to keep their fat levels as low as possible. And I found that the optimum fat level was at 30 minutes. It was a lot better then. And there were a lot of times whenever I did get outliers, and those were usually due to human error. Like once I made this really big mistake and got a number that was like 1,000 bigger than it was supposed to be. So I made quite a few errors, but this was the general trend of my results. And so my final result was that for the variable of time, the soybean white flake levels were consistently decreasing their moisture moisture was, obviously because as they dry over time, regardless of how long they're out there, they're going to continue, moisture is going to go down no matter what because they are drying. But then fat levels after 30 minutes begin to rise again, so I found that the optimum time for them to pull the flakes was at 30 minutes, which is pretty important to them because they have a lot of dispute between the operators there on when should you pull the flakes and when should you leave the flakes in and when should you test them, because they have people who check for quality control. So if the quality, if it's not where it needs to be, then they need to figure out the best time to pull it, which was 30 minutes. And that was pretty much all that I did at Cargill, and it really helped for me to tie together what I want to do with some of the chemical engineering aspects. And it was really cool to have the opportunity to work under an engineer and to learn more about the field of engineering.